Guys, coming at you with another Further Thoughts video. This time, it's going to be my further thoughts on William Slater's Odysseus. Now, I've already did a review for this, and I pretty much gave my opinion of the book. This Further Thoughts video is not only going to talk a little more about the book, but I actually want to kind of just go into my history with the author. So, as you may or may not know, William Slater is a favorite author of mine. I usually don't like young adult fiction of any sort, but he wrote for younger audiences, and even now, as an adult, I still enjoy his writing. I came upon him when I was about the 6th grade. I was about 12. I had a couple of his books in the library, and I checked them out, and one of them was Odysseus. Some other books I read by him at that point were Singularity, Interstellar Pig. A little later, I read House of Stairs, The Boy Who Reversed Himself, The Duplicate, Oddballs, and a few others by him. So this is not really going to be about the plot of Odysseus, just so much my general thoughts on it, and like my appreciation of the author. So as for the book part of it, yes, I really like the story. I think it's one that's not only very well written and very quickly paced, but not quickly paced in a way where it feels like you're missing important things or everything's rushed. He manages to write very quickly, get everything across in a way that feels organic, which I think is really hard to do, and it's something I'm very picky about in books. He writes very relatable characters. He writes very likable protagonists. All of his books are usually young guys who stumble into some kind of weird supernatural science fiction-y scenario and use their intellect as well as whatever is established in the beginning of the story to get out of it. And this doesn't feel like pandering. It doesn't feel like he's talking down to teenagers. It feels like, hey, I'm going to tell you an interesting story involving scientific concepts and how they would apply in this scenario, while still, at the end of the day, telling an interesting story first and foremost. And that is the most important thing science fiction or fantasy or any kind of like speculative writing can do. I think, stories should be about stories first, and then all the themes and ideas come secondly to it. Because I think if you're just writing a story to simply kind of work in themes, then you're going to have a pretty shitty story. And that's kind of a complaint I have about Michael Crichton, actually. His novels don't feel like novels, or even stories, so much as they feel like thesis papers using fictional characters. But anyway, back on topic. So, I love Slater. So I first discovered him then, and I kept reading him even after, and I read a bunch of other books he wrote, like The Boxes, and Into the Dream, and such. The Green Features of Tycho. And in even reading his stuff now, like as an adult, and rereading things, like I reread Odysseus for my review for it, I reread Singularity for my review for that. I bought Interstellar Pig, I need to read that again. But even now, when I read them, they still hold up. They're still interesting. And I find myself just as entertained now and intellectually stimulated now as I did when I was first read him when I was 12. So that's saying something, because I feel like a lot of writing we enjoy when we're young doesn't hold up when we're older. I've reread things I read as a kid that definitely don't hold up to Slater's writing. And that's why I really respect the guy, and I appreciate him. And sadly, I feel like he doesn't have much of a fan base. I don't hear anyone ever talk about him. He's never brought up in, best, YA authors lists or anything. And yet, people in my own life I know like him. One of my best friends, was also reading him around the same time I was. And I didn't know it because I didn't knew him until years later. And I got into a discussion with them, and I was like, have you heard of this writer named William Slater? He wrote sci-fi for young adults. And I mentioned Singularity, and my friend was like, yeah, I love Singularity. And I was like, holy shit, there's other people that like him. And a few other people I've talked to in high school and even after high school had read his stuff when I was a kid. So it feels like he's kind of like an underground writer that kids like, but he's not really thrown in the mainstream. I mean, I'm not sure sales-wise, what his popularity is, and You know, I mean, I know his stuff's still in print, which is saying something. You know, most of his stuff he wrote like in the 70s and 80s, and it's still in print now. So maybe he's more popular than I think, but I don't hear him covered in any like mainstream way or in any mainstream media. But anyway, my just general thoughts on the book. Not much to say on this part of the video, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I like it. I like the summer vacation idea. I like the psychic idea. I've always personally wanted to know what people are thinking about me, because I'm conceited. And I like the premise of like how it